Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. So, I grew up with animated Lord of the Rings movies. I really liked them as a kid. The Hobbit, Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, all that stuff. You probably see me make some content about it, all that stuff. Something I was really into, I watched a ton of when I was in elementary school. And, Peter Jackson made better ones later. He made those Hobbit movies, which are worse, but he made Lord of the Rings, and that was great. And then when I heard about this, I was so excited because I was like, wow, the Tolkien films of my youth are back. And it's in a different character design. None of these have consistent character design. This works. It's anime influence, sort of influenced by Miyazaki, Topcraft, who animated two of them originally, which became Studio Ghibli. Animated those two, so there's sort of some cool history there and stuff. And then I saw it, and I went into this knowing all those movies and knowing that none of them are good. And so when I came into this movie, I was like, I don't think it's gonna be good, and it wasn't. And let me tell you, this movie, 10 out of 10, met my expectations of being a subpar Tolkien film that is animated. I mean, wow. This movie had everything. Disappointing voice acting, animation that was inconsistent, some weird 3D rendered background things. I don't really get what was going on there. Who the fuck cares? It is awesome. They totally met Bakshi with his dumbass rotoscoping crap, which everyone thinks looks good. It doesn't. I don't care. This is like my dreams here. You gave me yet another subpar animated Tolkien movie. Now you say, hey, you didn't like those Hobbit movies for not being good? Yes, those Hobbit movies had $300 million and should have just been one movie. It's like a whole thing. I don't want to get into that. But those Hobbit movies, like a big blockbuster, rarely is that fun to watch. But an action-oriented animated movie where you're pretty sure they skipped over a bunch of material to get a movie out for tax reasons. Oh boy, this War of the Rohirrim, it knocks it out of the park. Holy crap. It is they get a good performer, Brian Cox. Miranda Otto does some narration as a kind of teaser thing. They do a whole end thing where you're definitely sure this connects to stuff. So if you're does this connect to stuff? Don't worry. They so heavy-handedly bring up a certain character at the end. I was like, oh, I'm glad they did that subtly. And then they go, here's a symbol, by the way, just so we're clear. I'm like, yeah, no, I got from the first thing he said. It's it's okay, movie. And then now we're gonna say his name, and you're like, what the fuck is it? What the fuck is this? You can't just let me. Come on. What the fuck? The rest of the movie is, it's about the kingdom of Rohirrim, and this other wolf kingdom or whatever the fuck. They want to take over, and he's like, that's the only way this is gonna work. So our kids get married, and they're like, no, gross. And then he's like, we'll take this outside. And then her dad, who's the Hulk. Okay, yes, this mainly takes place on this. So there's these two clans or kingdoms or whatever. And the Rohirrim clan is this red-haired girl, this red-haired lady who's very beautiful and stuff. She's a dad who's huge. And then this other team, kingdom whatever, shows up. They're the only way for our kingdoms to finally get along is if my son marries your daughter. And they're just she's not really into it. And her dad's I'm not gonna make her do that because y'all are weird. And then let's take this outside. And then her dad kills him with one punch. Which at first I will say, as the movie goes on and you see her dad is basically just the Hulk. That is I like when this movie gets all weird. As soon as it's oh, we can't be, we gotta be precious with the Tolkien. I'm Tolkien didn't want any of this. Shut the fuck up. Go crazy. And so he's just the Hulk. I don't know if that's in the Tolkien part this is from, but he just kills people. He literally kills a guy with one punch. He's oh man, I can do that? And you're he knew. Anyway, because he kills this dude with one punch, his son's all mad. And he starts a big war. It's about the War of Rohirrim, and you find out where Rohirrim really is and all that stuff. Basically, the prequel stuff, this is maybe the worst of it. It's really stupid, and it has no confidence in you to realize very basic Lord of the Rings facts, which anyone would know. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't read I haven't read Lord of the Rings. I've only read The Hobbit. I just like watching movies, and I knew every reference they were making. They were not like super deep. Maybe they made like some lore references and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess I'm not surprised by this movie. It's kind of like if your bad Saturday morning cartoons from when you were a kid evolved and kept being about bigger and more grown-up things, and like this is what they became, but without like why wouldn't they spend more? Like, I don't know. There is that rumor that that Warner's executive said because they did fast track and make this get done quick, it was only made to meet a release date so they could keep the rights, the film rights or the theatrical rights to the franchise. Who knows if that's true or not? It does sort of feel like they sort of messed around and kind of came up with a movie. I do think like the one thing that works much better about, like, let's say, you know, if I'm going to compare it to the animated Tolkien genre, if you want to say, which it is a widely inconsistent one that really probably isn't a genre, but I will say the previous attempts all had cool looking creatures and like neat stuff, and like, you know, there's always like a new thing to look at, and this is like a bunch of people and mostly white people, and you're just like, cool, like, I don't, what, I can see people on screen all the time, like show me an orc and a dwarf and like make them not look like they do in the live action movie for some reason, like make it weird. And it, like, you know, it has like a zombie elephant, it has like stuff like that, which I wish they would go into more. Instead it's like this guy's all upset because, you know, the king killed his dad One Punch Man style and all that. But like, I just think like this met, you know, certainly I shouldn't see this in theaters. I should watch this in my friend Russ's room at his parents' house while we drink beers and argue loudly about how people don't appreciate movies like this anymore or something. But they wouldn't appreciate it then. I don't know if I appreciate it now. I appreciate it for being the fucking junky mess that it is. It's not very well made in that. This is directed by a guy who, Kenji Kojiyama, who directed Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. Don't know what that is. Never saw that. Good for him. It was the story of Tolkien was selected by Philippa Boyens, who helped write the other Tolkien movies, both Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And she got a story by credit in this, but she didn't really, I don't know why she got that credit. This is what I wanted for this. I wanted you know, before Lord of the Rings hit, fantasy movies were not like a concern of big studios, unless you're like making Willow and you're George Lucas. Like most of the time they like throw some money at it, they make it, whatever, they don't care that much about it. It's probably not, let's be honest, like maybe the greatest movie ever. And you know, if you're really into sword and sorcery and fantasy and all that stuff, you'd obsess over these movies like a lot of times, unfortunately. And this feels like one of those. It doesn't feel modern in that I think one of the things that Peter Jackson did to the fantasy genre is actually showed it some respect and understand the potential it has. This doesn't. It's really like, oh cool, you know, it has the eagles, it has certain things, but it really doesn't take advantage of the format. It's sort of like what would work best. Apparently it was picked what would work best in juxtaposition of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. How about just like it's animated, like it's not gonna, we don't need everything to be in continuity. This very much is trying to be like it is in continuity. Like I don't really understand like why this in fact story was animated. It makes no fucking sense. I don't know. It's probably the blandest of all of the Tolkien animated films. It's better than those Hobbit films. And it does, like, seeing the eagles fly with realistic backgrounds was, I was like, oh shit, are we getting like bad BBC kind of animation quality shit here? I was hyped. I was like, let's cheap the fuck out of this. Let's save David Zaslav some money and make some junky animated bullshit. Like, I'm so down for that, except for the David Zaslav part. But this is just like a disappointing fantasy film. But it's like fun at it. I had fun, but I knew what I was getting into. I knew this wasn't going to be good. I rewatched The Hobbit with my kids, the anime one. That one's very faithful. The Bakshi Lord, you know, the other ones have always been sort of messy. This looks like one of those where like the fandom goes, I guess we have to see it because it's this, and they're gonna go, yep, we did that. I think they just needed a director who's really going to do something more creative with this, and it's like shot wise and composition wise and like everything. This just probably could have been a bland live action movie instead of a bland animated movie. I wish it had more fun. I wish it played more with Tolkien. I feel like at some point, although I do think the first Hobbit from 1977, is better than those Peter Jackson Hobbits, and is actually pretty good, all things considered. I do think the potential of there being a great Tolkien animated film has always been there. And it felt like, Rankin Bass and Bakshi messing around and trying to find out how to do it was probably more interesting to watch than this, because this is sort of bland. It is cool that they did a Miyazaki style, considering the history of Topcraft and the original animated films. I thought that was actually cool. I'm sure it wasn't made for that interesting with what I brought to it, but if it was, then that's cool. That's really well thought at. I just think it's like, if you're into Lord of the Rings, or you're like a 12-year-old boy who's like, I love Lord of the Rings, you're gonna have a great time. It's not a very engaging movie, to be honest. Like, I had a hard time concentrating with it, and I was like very pre-sold, and I was like, what do I have to get for dinner after this? And I was like, oh my god, what's going on? The fights are kind of okay, stuff like that. I don't know if this entirely works unless you're ready to see, as hyped as I am for like subpar animated action movie. If you're not into that, or Lord of the Rings, so obviously this film has a huge demo it appeals to. But no, I'm just like not. I was into it. I had fun with it. Maybe I'd watch it again. I feel better about it than the Hobbit films. I would be down to, if they made another one of these. I feel like they won't, but Lord of the Rohirrim is for everybody who wants to watch a disappointing animated movie that they could, pretty sure if they were 12 they would obsess over, but now they're too old for it. That's what this movie is for. Everybody else, they're probably not coming to this. They're not. It's fine. I love like dorky ass, when dorky ass movies become dorky ass stuff again. I don't try to be mainstream culture. This is very loving the smell of its own farts. Very much in the negative sense of this, when they get into the prequels and the connection stuff. I would really like one of these franchises just have an off story, and like I don't have to hear about Luke Skywalker or Gandalf or whoever the fuck. Just like if there's such a vast world, why do I have to hear about the same 4 fucking people? Like, I don't understand that. But like this is for the Tolkien obsessives, the guys who want to drink root beer with their friend back home, and talk about how cool it is, and like rewind the action scenes and pick out various shots and stuff like that. Like this, it probably should have been sent directly to your friend's bedroom back home. That's what it should have been, directly. That's how it was released. I wish it had been, because otherwise it's like, this doesn't seem to fit with this landscape. I'm sure it's going to be forgotten. This is an obsession only I care about, and I only care about it from my nostalgia for it. I completely understand that it is a tradition of not good movies, and this falls in that tradition excellently well. I'm so happy that we have another not good Tolkien movie that isn't live action. It's just messy ass animation. We need more badly and cheap animated Tolkien films to come out. None of this like live action, let's make a good movie stuff. We need more of this subpar Tolkien animated garbage, and this is exactly that. Great job, everybody. I'm fully satisfied this goes in the tradition I believed in as a kid, and this makes me believe that Tolkien can be animated and not good again, and thank you for that, Lord of the Rohirrim. You've made my 12-year-old dreams come true, that we can keep making this kind of quality when it comes to animation and Tolkien. Let's forget the potential that it could be good. Let's remind everyone what these animated Tolkien movies are, which is kind of a fucking mess and probably not worth your time, but I'm always down for it. So thank you to Lord of the Rohirrim. So if you have seen The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.